The warning lights blinked red across the command center. Admiral Jake Morrison watched the screens with careful eyes. 300 alien ships were coming toward Earth's solar system. Big ships, warships, diplomatic vessels that carried enough firepower to destroy planets. Jake had sent 17 warnings already. 17 messages telling them to turn back. The Galactic Council didn't listen. They never listened to humans. They thought Earth was weak because humans stayed in their own corner of space. They thought wrong. Commander Lisa Barrett walked up to Jake with a datapad in her hands. Her face was serious. She had been tracking the alien fleet for 3 days now. Sir, they just crossed the outer marker. The one we put near Neptune. Should we move to the next level? Jake nodded slowly. He didn't want to fight. Nobody on Earth wanted a fight. But the galaxy had to learn. Some doors stay closed for good reasons. Send them one more message. Make it very clear this time. Lisa pressed buttons on her pad. The message went out on every channel humans could use. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Terran Commonwealth. You are entering space that belongs to Earth. The Galactic Council cannot come here without permission. Turn your ships around now. This is your last warning. Far away on the lead console ship, Ambassador Vexthar read the message. He was a Crithian, which meant his body looked like moving crystal. Light reflected off his skin in rainbow colors. He waved one arm and dismissed the message like it was nothing. These humans think they can tell us what to do. We have been ruling the galaxy for 12,000 years. We have made peace between species that eat stars. What can one small species do to us? His tactical officer was named Quill. He was a Pelthian covered in soft fur that changed color when he felt nervous. Right now his fur was turning gray. Ambassador, our scout ships are picking up strange energy readings all over the human solar system. They have weapons and technology we cannot identify. Vexthar laughed. It sounded like glass chimes. It doesn't matter. Get ready to meet with them. We will teach these Terrans how things work in the real galaxy. The console fleet kept moving forward. They passed Mars. They moved between the asteroid belt. Their ships were massive and powerful. Each one could destroy a city with a single shot. They had shields that could stop any weapon the galaxy had ever made. Or so they thought. Then something strange happened. The navigation systems on every console ship started acting wrong. Screens flickered. Weapons wouldn't respond. Even the life support systems began to fail. And on every single view screen in the fleet, the same human face appeared. Captain Danny Rogers looked calm. He was sitting in a chair somewhere on Earth. Behind him, walls of computer screens showed data flowing like waterfalls. You were warned, Danny said. His voice was quiet but firm. You chose not to listen. Welcome to human space, the place where your technology doesn't work anymore because we control it now. Vexthar felt something he had not felt in many years. Fear. He hit his console, but nothing happened. What is this? How are you doing this? Our systems are protected by quantum locks. This should be impossible. A woman's voice came through the speakers. Lieutenant Amy Henderson sounded almost bored. It's not impossible, Ambassador. It's just math. While you were busy running the galaxy and telling everyone what to do, humans spent 300 years alone. We couldn't go anywhere. So we went deep instead. We studied. We learned. We created. Every piece of technology in your ships uses the standard galactic computer language. Humans helped write that language 50 years ago, when we first found one of your space probes. We put back doors in the code. Doors only we can use. Vexthar felt his ship drift. All 300 ships in his fleet were drifting now. Dead in space, helpless. This is an act of war, he shouted. Amy's voice stayed calm. No, Ambassador. War would be if we made your fusion reactors explode, and we could do that. Right now. This is just a lesson. You were told not to come here. You ignored the warning. Now you know why the warning exists. On Earth, General Nathan Price stood in the Deep Space Command Center. It was buried 2 miles under a mountain. Screens covered every wall. Hundreds of people worked at computers. His second officer, Colonel Beth Hamilton, stood next to him. Sir, we're getting reports that the Consul security fleet is gathering in Sector 7. They might be planning to attack us. Nathan smiled a little. It was not a happy smile. Let them try. The more ships they send, the more they'll learn. Back on the Consul flagship, Quill was working hard to get even basic power back. His fur had turned completely white with stress. Ambassador, I'm reading energy signatures all through this solar system. Not just near Earth, Mars has weapons. Venus has weapons. Even the asteroid belt has thousands of weapon platforms. Sir, the entire system is armed, and the technology they're using reads as fifth-dimensional. That should not exist for a species this young. Vexthar finally understood his mistake. How is that possible? A new voice answered. Director Kyle Bennett worked for Terran Intelligence. You're right to be confused, Ambassador. It shouldn't be possible. But you made one big mistake. You thought keeping us isolated would make us weak. It made us desperate. It made us creative. While you spread across the galaxy keeping everything safe and comfortable, we had nowhere to go. So we went deeper. Into physics you're afraid to study. Into technology you banned. Into areas of science you think are too dangerous. The crystal alien sat down heavily. His whole body had stopped glowing. What do you want from us? Kyle's answer was simple. Leave, go back to your space. Don't come back unless we invite you. Vexthar looked at his dead console. At his frozen fleet. At the power humanity had just shown. 300 warships stopped without a single shot fired. The High Command will not accept this. Danny Rogers appeared on screen again. Then the High Command will learn the same lesson you just learned. The hard way. The 300 console ships floated dead in space between Mars and Jupiter. Every weapon was frozen. Every engine was cold. Every computer system showed error messages in languages the crew couldn't even read. The most powerful diplomatic fleet in galactic history had become expensive space junk. Ambassador Vexthar hit his console over and over. Nothing worked. His crystal hands made loud clicking sounds against the dead metal. This is sorcery. Dark magic. Our systems have quantum locks. Triple encrypted. There are 7 different security layers. This cannot be happening. Lieutenant Amy Henderson's voice came through the speakers again. She sounded like she was explaining something simple to a child. It's not magic, Ambassador. It's just really good planning. You see, humans are curious, maybe too curious. When we found your probe 300 years ago, we didn't just study it. We took it apart. Every circuit, every line of code. We learned your computer language better than you know it yourselves. Then we waited. We watched. We learned more. And 50 years ago, we started helping you update your systems. You never asked who was writing the new security patches for galactic standard computers. You just used them. Vexthar felt sick. His species didn't get sick often. But right now his body wanted to shatter into pieces. You've been inside our systems for 50 years? Longer, Amy said. But 50 years ago we got serious about it. Every ship you build, every station you construct, every computer you connect to the galactic network, they all talk to us first. They just don't tell you about it. On Earth, General Nathan Price watched everything from Deep Space Command. His second officer, Colonel Beth Hamilton, showed him new reports. Sir, the console security fleet is definitely moving. 2,000 ships heading towards Sector 7. That's the staging area for attacks. They're planning something big. Nathan drank cold coffee from a metal cup. He had been awake for 30 hours. How long until they get organized? Beth checked her data pad. Maybe 4 days. They're pulling ships from all over the galaxy. This will be the largest military force ever assembled by the Consul. Nathan put down his cup. Good. Let them bring everyone. Let them bring their best weapons, their best commanders, their best technology. The bigger the force, the bigger the lesson. Colonel Beth looked worried. Sir, are you sure we can handle 2,000 ships? We stopped 300, but 2,000 is different. Nathan smiled. It was the same smile a teacher gives when a student is about to learn something important. Beth, we're not going to fight 2,000 ships. We're going to make sure those 2,000 ships can't fight at all. Meanwhile, on the frozen Consul flagship, Quill finally got one system working. It was the basic communication system. He used it to send a message back to Consul headquarters. The message was simple. Fleet disabled. Humans control our technology. Request immediate assistance. The response came back in 2 hours. It was not what Vexthar expected. Assistance denied. You were warned not to enter Terran space. Fleet is your responsibility. High Command out. Vexthar couldn't believe it. They're abandoning us? Quill's fur turned a dark blue. That meant he was angry. Not abandoning, sir. They're testing. They want to see what the humans will do to us. We're an experiment now. A new human voice joined the conversation. Director Kyle Bennett from Terran Intelligence spoke slowly. We're not going to hurt you, Ambassador. Despite what you might think, humans aren't monsters. We're going to give you back your ships. We're going to let you go home. But first you need to understand something important. Kyle's face appeared on the screens. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. The Galactic Council thinks it rules the galaxy because it has the most ships, the most weapons, the most members. But power isn't about how many guns you have. It's about what you know, what you can do, what you're willing to learn. Humans spent 3 centuries learning while you told us to stay away. We used that time well. Vexthar felt tired, more tired than he had ever been. What do you want, really? Kyle leaned forward. We want you to leave us alone. We want the Council to recognize that Earth and our solar system belong to humans. Not to you, not to the galaxy, to us. We want you to put it in writing. Make it official. And then we want you to go away. The High Command will never agree, Vexthar said. Then we'll keep teaching until they do, Kyle replied. 4 days later, the Council security fleet arrived in Sector 7, 2,000 warships. The pride of galactic military power. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched them gather from her office on Luna Base, which was a human city on Earth's moon. Her chief engineer, Lieutenant Frank Morris, showed her what the sensors were picking up. Ma'am, they have weapons we've never seen before. Things that can age matter until it turns to dust. Bombs that can fold space. Shields that exist in 7 dimensions. This is their elite equipment. The stuff they keep in reserve for real wars. Kate looked at the data. She was a small woman with short black hair and sharp eyes. Then we don't fight their ships. We fight everything else. Frank didn't understand. Everything else? Kate pulled up a galactic map. Their supply lines. Their fuel convoys. Their communication networks. Their banking systems. Their food shipments. You can have the best weapons in the galaxy, Frank. But they don't work if you can't fuel them. Can't aim them. Can't pay the crews. Can't feed the soldiers. She pressed a button. Activate Protocol Labyrinth. Frank's eyes went wide. Ma'am, that protocol has never been tested on this scale. We could crash half the galaxy's computer systems. Then half the galaxy will learn not to attack Earth, Kate said coldly. All across the galaxy, something strange started happening. Supply ships heading toward Sector 7 suddenly found their navigation broken. They arrived at empty coordinates in deep space instead of meeting points. Communication relays that connected the fleet started broadcasting static instead of orders. Banks that held military funds showed zero balances. Even the translation computers that let different species talk to each other started making mistakes. Orders to advance became orders to retreat. Commands to fire became commands to hold. The Council security fleet fell apart without a single shot being fired. Ships ran out of fuel. Crews couldn't understand their commanders. Weapons needed codes that nobody could access. Soldiers got hungry because food shipments never arrived. Ambassador Vexthar, still stuck on his frozen ship, watched reports come in. They're everywhere. How are humans everywhere? We checked for their agents. We used DNA scanners. We verified every species on every ship. A new message appeared on his personal screen. It was from someone named Agent Carrie Nelson. You checked for human bodies, Ambassador. You didn't check for human minds uploaded into your computer networks. You didn't look for human artificial intelligence pretending to be galactic software. And you never considered that some of your own people like us more than they like you? Vexthar put his head in his hands. His crystal fingers clicked together quietly. The greatest military force in galactic history was falling apart, and humans had done it all without firing a single weapon. President Alan Foster sat in the White House Situation Room. Around him, screens showed the chaos spreading across the galaxy. 2,000 console warships drifting without fuel. Banking systems crashed. Supply chains broken. Communication networks filled with static. All done without destroying a single ship. Without killing a single being. His chief of staff, Linda Green, stood next to him. She held a data pad showing casualty reports. Sir, 0 deaths. Some minor injuries from crew panicking, but nobody has died. The console fleet is disabled but alive. Alan nodded. That was important. Humans weren't trying to kill anyone. They were trying to teach a lesson. Good, that's what we wanted. Now we need to make sure they understand why this happened. Linda touched her data pad. The galactic news networks are going crazy. Half of them think Earth has become evil. The other half are asking questions they never asked before. Questions about why humans were kept isolated. Questions about what the Council has been hiding. Alan stood up. He was a tall man with gray at his temples and steady hands. Then it's time to talk. Set up a broadcast. I want every species in the galaxy to hear this. 2 hours later, President Alan Foster's face appeared on every screen in console space, every television, every computer, every communication device. Humans had taken control of the Galactic Broadcast Network, just like they had taken control of everything else. Alan spoke calmly. His voice was firm but not angry. People of the galaxy, my name is Alan Foster. I'm the president of Earth. I'm speaking to you today because your leaders made a choice. They chose to ignore our warnings. They chose to see our boundaries as weakness. They sent 300 ships to force us to join their system. When we stopped those ships, they sent 2,000 more. We stopped those too. He paused and looked directly into the camera. We did this without killing anyone, without destroying property. We simply showed that human technology is more advanced than you were told. That human capability is greater than you were led to believe, and that human patience, while great, has limits. Behind Alan, images appeared on the screen. Images of the first contact between humans and the Galactic Council 300 years ago. Humans offering friendship, offering culture, offering to join the galactic community. Then images of the rejection, of the quarantine order, of Earth being marked as forbidden territory. Alan continued. Your leaders told you we were dangerous. They told you we were unstable. They told you we needed to be isolated for everyone's safety. But they never told you the real reason. We weren't quarantined because we were violent. We were quarantined because we asked too many questions, because we learned too fast, because we wouldn't accept the idea that progress should stop. More images appeared. These showed console species that had tried to innovate and were shut down. Technologies that were banned. Scientists who disappeared. The Galactic Council maintains peace by preventing change. They keep everyone safe by keeping everyone the same. And when we refused to slow down, they locked us away. Alan's voice grew stronger. Well, we didn't stop. We couldn't expand outward, so we expanded inward, into sciences you declared forbidden, into technologies you said were impossible, into ideas you thought were dangerous. And now you see the result. 300 years of human innovation. 300 years of human determination. 300 years of human freedom. He leaned forward. Your fleet is disabled but safe. Your people will be returned home without harm. But understand this clearly. Earth is sovereign. Our solar system belongs to us. You cannot enter without permission. You cannot threaten us without consequence. And you cannot force us to be what you want us to be. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, beings sat in silence. Some were angry. Some were scared. But many were thinking about questions they had never been allowed to ask. On the console flagship, Ambassador Vexthar watched the broadcast with Quill beside him. The tactical officer's fur had turned a thoughtful purple. Sir, he's right. I looked up the old records, the ones from 300 years ago. Humans weren't rejected because they were dangerous. They were rejected because they made the council uncomfortable. Vexthar was quiet for a long time. Finally he spoke. How many other species have been kept down? How many others were told to stop advancing? Quill checked his pad. Even though the ship systems were dead, his personal device still worked. Humans had allowed that much. According to the restricted files, 47 species in the last 1,000 years. All of them flagged for advancing too fast. All of them pressured to slow down or face isolation. The Crystal Ambassador felt something crack inside his chest. Not his body. Something deeper. We've been maintaining peace by crushing dreams. On Earth, General Nathan Price met with Admiral Kate Sullivan and Director Kyle Bennett. They sat in a secure conference room deep underground. Kate spoke first. The galactic news networks are splitting. Some are calling us heroes. Some are calling us villains. But everyone is talking about us. Kyle pulled up data on a screen. We're receiving communications from 63 different species. Not governments. Individual scientists, engineers, philosophers, artists. They're asking if they can come here. If Earth would let them live in our space. Nathan rubbed his tired eyes. That's going to create a whole new problem. If we start accepting refugees, the Council will see it as us building an empire. Or, Kate said slowly, they'll see it as us offering choice, something they never offered. Kyle nodded. I vote we accept them. Not everyone. We screen carefully. But we accept those who truly want to learn, to grow, to be free. We turn Earth space into something new. Not a government, not an empire. A place where beings can choose their own path. Nathan thought about it. Then he smiled. The Council wanted us isolated to keep us from spreading our ideas. Let's spread our ideas by letting others come to us. Far away in Sector 7, the Council fleet was slowly getting minimal power back. Humans had decided to give them basic life support and enough engine power to limp home. It would take months to get back to their space. Months to think about what had happened. Commander Vexthar received a message on his personal device. It was from Dr. Helen Pierce, a human diplomat. Ambassador, your fleet will be allowed to leave in 12 hours. You'll have enough power to reach the nearest console station. Your weapons will remain disabled until you leave our sensor range. Consider this time a gift. Time to think about what you learned here. The message continued. The Galactic Council has maintained order for 12,000 years. That's admirable, but order without growth becomes stagnation. Peace without freedom becomes prison. Humans aren't your enemy, Ambassador. We're your wake-up call. The galaxy is bigger than your rules. Life is more than your regulations. And some species will always choose to explore the unknown rather than accept the comfortable. Vexthar read the message 3 times. Then he wrote a response. Dr. Pierce, I will deliver your message to the High Command. I will tell them what I saw here. But I don't know if they'll listen. Pride is a powerful thing. Even more powerful than your weapons. Helen's response came back quickly. Then we'll be ready, Ambassador. We've been ready for 300 years. What's a little longer? The Council fleet began to move slowly away from human space. On Earth, people celebrated. Not because they won a war, but because they proved something important. That being small doesn't mean being weak. That being isolated doesn't mean being helpless. And that being told no doesn't mean giving up. In the streets of New York, Tokyo, London, Mumbai, and 1,000 other cities, humans looked up at the stars with new pride. They had stood against the galaxy and won, not through violence, through intelligence, through preparation, through refusing to accept limitations others tried to place on them. And in the darkness of space at the edge of human territory, the warning lights continued to blink their message. A message the galaxy would never forget. 3 weeks after the fleet incident, the Galactic Council High Command finally asked for real negotiations. They sent Ambassador Xyloth, their most experienced diplomat. Xyloth had handled first contact with 70 different species. He had stopped 12 wars. He had negotiated peace between beings that lived in different dimensions. If anyone could deal with humans, it was him. Xyloth arrived at Neutral Station Kepler, a facility humans had built just outside their solar system. It was beautiful in a strange way, not like console stations that all looked the same. This place had art, music playing softly in the halls, windows that showed Earth and its moon in the distance. It felt alive. Dr. Helen Pierce met him at the airlock. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a firm handshake. Next to her stood General Scott Harper, a military man with gray hair and careful movements. They walked together to a conference room. Please sit. Helen gestured to a chair designed specifically for Xyloth's body type. His species was tall and thin with 4 arms. We have a lot to talk about. Xyloth sat carefully. His translator implant processed Helen's words and made them sound natural in his own language. You have violated every law the galaxy recognizes. You have attacked our infrastructure. You have humiliated our military forces. You have broken treaties that existed before your species learned to make fire. General Scott laughed. It wasn't a mean laugh. Just tired. Wrong on all counts, Ambassador. We defended our territory after 17 warnings. We disabled but didn't destroy your invasion force. And we didn't break any treaties because Earth never signed them. You can't break agreements you never made. Xyloth's skin changed color. That was how his species showed emotion. Right now he was turning a dark red, which meant frustration. You speak of defense? You are the threat here. An isolated species that developed weapons beyond all reason. A species that refuses to join civilized society. Helen leaned forward. Her voice stayed calm. And why do you think we isolated ourselves, Ambassador? The question hung in the air. Xyloth didn't answer right away. Helen continued. She brought up holographic displays showing old records. 230 years ago, humanity made first contact with the Galactic Council. We were so excited. We thought we were finally part of something bigger. We shared everything. Our culture. Our music, our science, our dreams of walking among the stars with friends. She pulled up more files. Images of humans talking with console representatives. Humans showing their technology. Humans offering ideas and innovations. And you know what happened? The console council met for 6 months. Then they came back with their decision. Humanity was deemed unsuitable for membership. We were quarantined, forbidden from leaving our solar system, cut off from the galaxy. Scott pulled up another document. We found the real assessment report. The classified one. You want to know what it said? Humanity was rejected not because we were violent, not because we were primitive. We were rejected because we advanced too fast, because we asked uncomfortable questions, because we wouldn't accept limitations on what we could study or learn. Xyloth shifted in his seat. His color was changing to a light blue now. That meant uncertainty. Helen's voice grew stronger. The report specifically said that human innovation was disruptive, that our tendency to question authority was dangerous, that our refusal to accept the status quo would destabilize the careful order the console had built. So you locked us away, not for your safety, for your comfort. Scott stood up and walked to the window. Earth glowed blue and white in the distance. You know what's funny? You thought isolation would contain us, make us weak, make us eventually give up and accept your rules. But it did the opposite. It made us focused, determined, free to explore ideas you banned, free to develop technologies you declared impossible. He turned back to Xyloth. We spent 3 centuries learning everything we could. Physics, mathematics, computer science, dimensional theory, consciousness research, all the fields you locked behind regulations and committees and slow approval processes. We had none of that. Just curiosity and time. A new person entered the room. Captain Ryan Clark carried a data core in his hands. He was young, but his eyes looked older. Ambassador, this data core contains everything we've learned about console history. The real history, not the approved version you teach in schools. Ryan placed the core on the table. We found records of 47 species over the last 2,000 years. Species that tried to innovate beyond console approval. Species that asked to research forbidden sciences. Species that wanted to advance faster than the regulations allowed. You want to know what happened to all of them? Xyloth's color faded to almost white. Ryan continued. They were either isolated like us or they were peacefully integrated. That's the term you use, peacefully integrated, which means their governments were replaced with console-approved leadership. Their scientists were reassigned. Their innovations were classified as dangerous and locked away. You didn't conquer them. You absorbed them, made them into quiet, obedient members who stopped dreaming. Helen pulled up a specific file. Take the Valorn, for example. 500 years ago, they developed technology that could fold space in ways the console said was impossible. They wanted to share it, advance it, use it to explore distant galaxies. The console declared it dangerous. Within 10 years, the Valorn government had collapsed. New leadership emerged. Leadership that agreed to stop the research. The technology was buried, Scott added another example. The Thexnor people created art using quantum states, art that could exist in multiple forms at once. The console said it was disturbing to other species, made them uncomfortable. Within 20 years, quantum art was banned. The Thexnor artists either stopped creating or disappeared. Xyloth finally spoke. His voice was quieter than before. The console maintained stability. For 12,000 years, we have prevented wars. We have managed resources. We have kept peace between thousands of different species. Your chaos threatens everything we built. Helen nodded slowly. You're right. You've maintained peace. But at what cost? You've created a galaxy where nothing changes, where nothing grows, where every species is comfortable but never challenged, never inspired, never free to become more than what you allow them to be. Ryan sat down across from Xyloth. Think about it, Ambassador. 12,000 years of galactic civilization, and where are you? The same place you were 11,000 years ago. Same technology, same politics, same ideas. You've achieved perfect stagnation, perfect control, perfect boredom. Scott leaned on the table. Humans aren't trying to destroy what you built. We're offering an alternative. You want stability? Keep it. You want slow, careful progress approved by committees? Have it. But let those who want more have a choice. Let species that dream of pushing boundaries come to us. Helen finished the thought. We're not asking to join the console. We're not asking for your approval. We're simply asking for recognition. Recognition that Earth space is sovereign, that we have the right to exist as we choose, and that others have the right to choose us if they want to. Xyloth sat silent for a long time. His color shifted through several shades. Finally, he spoke. What you're asking for would create a rival power structure. A second option in a galaxy that has only known one way for thousands of years. Helen smiled. Yes, competition, choice, freedom. Concepts the Council hasn't had to deal with in a very long time. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Xyloth stood up slowly. The High Command will never agree to this. Scott walked back to the window. Then we'll continue doing what we've been doing. Your fleet is still disabled. Your infrastructure is still compromised. And frankly, Ambassador, this conversation is a courtesy. We don't actually need your permission. We're just trying to avoid more conflict. Xyloth looked at all three humans, these strange beings from a quarantined world who had somehow become powerful enough to challenge galactic order. What if I said yes? What if I convinced the High Command to recognize your sovereignty? Helen stood and offered her hand. Then we restore your systems. We release your fleet. We open diplomatic relations. And we prove that different ways of life can coexist without conflict. Xyloth looked at her hand. It was a human gesture of peace. Slowly, he reached out with one of his forearms and took it. I will try. But I make no promises. As Xyloth left the station, he looked back at Earth one more time. That small blue world had changed everything, and the galaxy would never be the same. 4 months passed before the Treaty of Kepler was finally signed. It took that long because the Galactic Council High Command argued about every single word, every comma, every detail. But in the end, they agreed. Earth space became officially recognized as sovereign territory. The Council promised to leave humans alone. Humans promised to restore Council systems and release the captured fleet. The signing ceremony was simple. Ambassador Xyloth represented the Council. President Alan Foster represented Earth. They stood together on neutral station Kepler with cameras recording everything. No speeches. No celebrations. Just two beings signing a document that changed galactic history, but the real changes didn't happen in conference rooms. They happened quietly across the galaxy, in small ways that added up to something massive. On the industrial world of Kelmar 5, an engineer named Thexnor submitted his resignation. He had worked for the Council Manufacturing Commission for 30 years. Good job, steady pay, boring as watching paint dry. He received a message on his personal device. Applications now open at Terran Innovation Hub. Bring your wildest ideas. No idea too strange, no dream too big. Thexnor packed his tools that night. 3 days later, he was on a transport heading toward Earth space. He wasn't alone. 40 other beings from his world came with him, all of them tired of building the same things the same way forever. In the academic towers of Prima 3, a scientist named Lishara published a paper. It was about theoretical dimensional folding, new mathematics that could change how ships traveled through space. The paper was brilliant. Within hours, Council censors flagged it as dangerous research. They sent her a message. Stop this work immediately or face consequences. Before they could act further, Lishara received a different message. Dr. Margaret Stone from Terra Nova Research Institute wrote, "Your paper is fascinating. We would love to discuss it further. Earth has no restrictions on dimensional research. If you're interested, we have a position available. Full funding, freedom to explore any direction you want." Lishara looked at her office, at the awards on the wall, at the comfortable life she had built following Council rules. Then she looked at her paper, at the ideas she wasn't allowed to explore, at the future she wasn't allowed to create. She booked passage to Earth that evening all across the galaxy. This pattern repeated. Scientists, engineers, artists, philosophers, dreamers. People who felt trapped by Council regulations found hope in human space. Not all of them came. Many stayed where they were. But enough came to matter. Enough came to change things. Admiral Jake Morrison, now in charge of Terran border security, watched the immigration numbers with Commander Lisa Barrett. They stood in the new command center on Luna Station. Through the windows, they could see construction, new habitats being built, new docking facilities, new communities taking shape. We're up to 15 different species living in Terran space now, Lisa reported. Population growth is 40% higher than we projected. And intelligence says 70 more groups are in contact with our outreach teams. They're asking about coming here. Jake looked at the construction outside, beings from a dozen worlds working together, building something new. We didn't conquer anyone. We just offered them something they were missing: freedom, choice, hope. Lisa smiled. The consul must be furious. Some of them, Jake agreed. But not all. Xyloth sends me reports sometimes. Private messages. He says there are factions within consul leadership who understand what we're doing, who even support it quietly. Change is coming to the galaxy, Lisa. Slow change, but real. On Earth, President Alan Foster met with his cabinet. They gathered in the White House Situation Room like they had during the crisis. But this time the mood was different. Hopeful instead of tense, General Nathan Price raised concerns. Sir, we're growing fast, very fast. We have 15 species living in our space, building communities, creating new technologies. The Council is watching. Some of their leadership still sees us as a threat. Linda Green, the Chief of Staff, responded, We are a threat, Nathan, but not the kind they think. We're a threat to their control, to their stagnation. Every being that comes to us is a being who chose freedom over comfort. That terrifies some of them. Alan Foster nodded. Then we continue carefully. We protect our borders. We welcome those who truly want to be here. And we prove that security doesn't require submission, that peace doesn't require everyone being the same, that civilization can thrive with diversity and choice. Far away at Consul headquarters, Ambassador Xyloth stood before the Council of Nine, the supreme leaders of galactic civilization, ancient beings who had ruled for centuries. They questioned him for hours about Earth, about humans, about the treaty. Council Elder Moore Auden spoke with a voice like grinding stones. The humans have fractured our unity. Species are leaving Consul space, going to them, following their example. This cannot continue. Xyloth took a deep breath. He had thought about this moment for months. Elder, with respect, we fractured our own unity long ago. We did it by refusing to grow, by suppressing innovation, by making beings choose between following their dreams and being part of galactic society. Humans didn't create dissatisfaction. They simply offered an alternative to those who were already unhappy. Another elder, Pelmoth, leaned forward. You sympathize with them. You've been corrupted by their ideas. Xyloth met her eyes. I understand them. There's a difference. For 12,000 years, the Consul has maintained stability by controlling change, by making sure nothing happens too fast. Nothing challenges the established order. Humans showed that change doesn't equal chaos, that innovation doesn't mean destruction. Perhaps there is wisdom in their approach. The Council erupted in argument. Some agreed with Xyloth. Some called for his removal. Some wanted to declare war on Earth despite the treaty. The meeting lasted 8 hours and solved nothing. But seeds had been planted. Questions had been asked. Doubts had been raised. Years passed. Terran territory grew slowly but steadily. Not through conquest or force, through choice. Species came voluntarily. They built communities. They shared knowledge. They created things the galaxy had never seen. Mars became home to a joint human-Thexnor research facility studying quantum consciousness. Venus hosted artists from 12 species creating fusion works that blended their cultures. The asteroid belt became an industrial zone where beings worked with dangerous technologies banned in Consul space. Safe methods, careful methods, but methods that pushed boundaries. Luna City, the human settlement on Earth's moon, transformed into something unique. A place where 40 different species lived together, not in separated districts like on Consul worlds, mixed together, learning from each other, creating something new. Captain Danny Rogers was old now. His hair was completely white. His hands shook sometimes, but his mind was still sharp. He stood on the observation deck of Border Station Alpha, watching ships pass through the checkpoints. Ships from hundreds of worlds, all traveling peacefully. His granddaughter, Ensign Claire Rogers, stood beside him. She was young and excited about her first assignment. Grandpa, do you think we'll ever have real peace with the Consul? Like actual friendship? Danny thought about the question carefully. Peace doesn't mean agreement, Claire. It means respect. They respect our boundaries now. They respect what we've built. Some of them even respect why we built it. That's enough. Claire watched a Crithian transport ship pass by. Crystal beings like Ambassador Vexthar. What made us different? Why did humans succeed where others failed? Danny smiled. We didn't have a choice. When the Consul quarantined us, we could either give up or get creative. We chose creative. We turned isolation into opportunity, prison into workshop, and we refused to let anyone else define our limits. Is that why other species come here? Because we refused to give up? Partly, Danny said. But also because we offered something the console forgot to provide. Hope. The idea that tomorrow can be better than today. That new discoveries wait around every corner. That the universe is infinite and so are possibilities. Claire looked out at the stars. Earth glowed blue in the distance. What happens next? Where do we go from here? Danny put his hand on her shoulder. That's the beautiful thing about freedom, kid. We get to decide, not the console. Not some ancient council. Us. Every being in Terran space has a voice, has a choice, has a future they help create. Far away at the edge of human territory, the warning lights still blinked their message. Red lights that had started as a threat. Now they meant something different. They were a promise. A statement. A declaration that some boundaries existed not to keep others out, but to protect something precious inside. The right to dream. The right to grow. The right to determine your own path among the stars. The Galactic Council had been warned not to enter Terran territory. They learned why the hard way. But in learning, they discovered something unexpected. That challenge could lead to growth. That competition could inspire excellence. That maybe, just maybe, the humans had something to teach after all. And in the darkness of space, new lights began to appear. Other species creating their own zones, their own rules, their own paths. Inspired by what Earth had done. The galaxy was changing. Slowly, carefully, but changing nonetheless. Because one small species on one small world had refused to accept.